Okay, April 20th, 2021.
15th. April 15th.
April 15th, 2021. We're doing an interview with Tom Kenney, former resident of German, now here in his home up in Clark Summit. And Tom, we want to start by asking you a few questions. If you want to give us a little rundown of your family now, and you're married to your lovely wife in there, give us a little background.
Well, the one that was making faces at me is my wife, Mary. We've been married for 38 years. And the younger one is Christine. Christine is 32. We were married in 1983. Christine was born in 1988. I am from German. I was born and raised there. I was born in 1945. Moved out in 1983. When I moved out, it was July 2nd. That's the date we got married. So far as my background is concerned, my grandparents were in German well before my time, and I can remember my mother saying that as a little girl she can remember her father being buried in a horse-drawn caisson. And his name was John Merrick. And they were all miners at the time. Merrick, M-E-R-R-I-C-K. They were all miners at the time. And they were Irish immigrants. No, his father was, not him. So anyway, he built the house that I was raised in.
That was on Washington Avenue.
Right on Washington Avenue.
You remember the number, house number?
309.
309 Washington.
I don't know who's in it now. After my mother died, we sold it, and I think it's been resold a few times since. I have no idea now who's in there. Oftentimes I go by, and I often wonder what it would be like inside, you know. But such as it goes.
So your grandfather was a miner.
Yeah.
And do you remember your grandmother's name? And do you remember when they came to German?
No.
Were they there early?
Oh, they were there. Well, my grandfather was buried in 1907.
Okay.
Or not, yeah, somewhere in there. And that's a little bit beyond me. I had a first cousin, a nun, Sister Beatrix. And she knew all of this stuff. And I used to be able, I should have written it down, but I didn't. And now she's gone, so.
Yeah. And your mother's and father's name? What?
My mother's name was Evelyn, and my father's name was Raymond. And my father died in 1973, and my mother died in 1988, early 88. Because my mother died in February, and Christine was born in July.
Okay. And you were born and lived in German from 1945 until you left?
Until July 2nd, 83. And then we got married, and we had this house already bought, and it was just a matter for the closing to go through.
So you went to school in German then, so give us a little background of your early grade school, like things that you can remember. Did you go to the Catholic school or the German public school?
I'll be honest with you. My mother started me out in the parochial school, and I was casted. Had been burnt. I can tell you more about that in a minute. But anyway, there was a nun there, and oh, she was a witch out of hell. And my mother took me out. Well, one day I come home with the print of a ruler on my face. That was it. Off to the public school. And the early grade teacher was Mrs. Farrell. She was a saint. Genevieve Farrell. Her home was opposite the gas station as you go up to the end of German, yeah, by the lights.
By the Windsor, yeah.
By the Windsor, catty corner from the Windsor.
Yeah, she was the music teacher.
Yeah, well, taught everything, but music teacher, yes. Yeah, and Mrs. Farrell was a real saint. And then there was another teacher that I have to tell you, I loved her, Gert McDermott.
Gert McDermott, she had green hair when I was a kid.
Yeah. But anyway, it was odd because as I went ahead a grade, she happened to go up a grade, up a grade, up a grade, right through the high school. Anyway, times were tough then, and I didn't have a whole lot, and my mother didn't have a whole lot. And you tend to get a little bit disgusted, and Gert McDermott would get me on the side, and she would say, Tommy, don't ever become a defeatist. And I remember those words even to today. And I think one of the reasons she kind of liked me was because of my background. Another reason, I have a flair for grammar, English, and English literature. And that was right up her alley. So anyway, we got along just fine. Then as the high school years came along.
Who were your friends with in grade school?
Oh, gosh.
Who were some of the kids you hung around with or in your grades? Can you
There
remember?
was Walter Giesler.
Oh, yeah.
He was from German. Teddy Krusch was from German.
Yeah.
Bug or John Shashansky, I don't know where he is. I haven't seen him in five decades. And there were a number of them. Right offhand, they're the ones I can think of that I seem to know the most.
Yeah.
Again, I didn't play baseball. I was not involved in sports. So that took me out of the groups.
Yeah.
I was never a group member because I had been terribly burned earlier at the age of 4.
I was just going to ask you, that had to be real early.
Well, this was a life changer because April the 9th, 1949. I'm 4 years old, and the day was a Wednesday. And I had been out in the backyard playing with a neighbor. And we had snowsuits on, made out of nylon. Right after World War II, nylon was a big thing. Anyway, a neighbor set a garbage fire in back of our house, across the alley, where there's new homes now, but at the time, it was from the mines, the wash houses had been torn down. And you know, you could burn garbage and tires. You burn your mother-in-law off there. No law against it, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, we're out there playing. And the neighbor set a garbage fire. And I can remember him to this day. Don't go near the fire. Well, in the house he goes, and up we go. And we're thrown still in the fire. And it wasn't a flaming fire, it was like smoldering. And I slipped. And the nylon went up. And I ran maybe 100 yards screaming. And a neighbor, Harry McCluskey, had been out in his backyard sawing wood. And he ran over. 2 other neighbors come over. My mother come running out. They roll me in the snow. Now they had burns on their hands for a couple of weeks later. So here I am screaming. Well, Harry McCluskey gets in this brand new 1948 Dodge. My mother's holding me. He's driving the car. He didn't know where to go. Now Harry is shell-shocked. My mother's screaming. I'm bloody screaming. The thing's a hell of a mess. So anyway, oddly enough, a Wednesday, there was no doctors in German. But this, by happenstance, there was a young doctor by the name of Casey who had just moved into German on Main Street there in Washington Avenue. And Harry stopped the car, and Casey ran out and he grabbed me, took me in, threw me on a gurney. Now I know all this from my mother telling me. Anyway, he had the old bottle of milk type thing, and he poured it all over me. And it was the very same stuff they used for tank battles in North Africa. It was for tank burns. So anyway, he got me stabilized in St. Joseph's Hospital. I was there, I don't know how long I was there. I was there for quite a while. When I come back, another resident of German, Dr. Richard D. Roderick.
Dr. Roderick.
My mother took me to him, and he would bandage me up, and then he'd give me a set of bandages and let me do whatever I wanted. And that was for quite a while. And then after that, our doctor was Dr. Holmes on Rushbrook Street.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then after that, it wasn't until July 2nd, 1990, that I had pre-cancer scars and contractures removed from the bend of the knee, from the back of my leg and all the way down. I still had the scars, but anyway, it was Bolus, and he was known to be a brilliant surgeon. And all those years in between, nobody had touched me because they didn't have the technology.
Yeah.
So for 43 years, I was basically considered disabled, and a lot of the jobs that I would look for, I couldn't pass physical. So that's our thing. Burns are a terrible thing.
Yeah.
I will put it this way, I do not belong to the Masons, but every year I have a couple of bucks for them for the Wayne Pike Shrine Bowl. I have a friend in Homestead who's fairly high up in the Masons, and we're all friends, and that's what I do. I take care of it. You know, get tickets for a kid. I don't go, I'll send somebody. But I always finance that because the burn centers.
Yeah.
And I'm always interested in anything to do with burn centers, hence my interest in the shrine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, sure, sure.
Now, as a teenager,
Yeah.
you still were going to the public school.
Oh yeah.
Now, did you go swimming or anything locally, or
No.
did you go to the lakes? Or?
Once in a blue moon with the Boy Scouts, in a lake and out. Even on a gym class with Coach Evans, they let me hit the ball, but not run. Maybe boxing inside or tumbling I could do, but they didn't want to risk getting those scars ripped open, or chances are I'd lose a leg.
Yeah.
So they had to be very careful with me on anything like that.
Yeah. What year did you go in the Boy Scouts? Do you remember?
Oh my God. Well, I was in the...
Who was your scoutmaster?
Oh, I'll tell you about that.
Boys?
I went in the Boy Scouts, maybe 11 years old, 10 years old, 11 to 12, something like that. And there were the two brothers, Fred and Don Stevens. Your father, Phil Smollicone. There was another man named Freddie Zielinski. He had swimming, he taught swimming. He had a lot of patience with me in that. I'm trying to think of others.
You met...
Oh, there was Jim McCarthy, he was another one.
Jimmy McCarthy, yeah.
But those are the ones I primarily remember.
And you met where? In the community house?
We met at the Methodist Church in German, in the very basement that I was in when we were at the meeting last week.
Oh, okay.
That's why I was walking all around, because I haven't been there in 50 years.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Did you go to summer camp? Did you go with them to...
I remember going to Point L.
Yeah.
I think it was a week.
Camp Edward, yeah.
Yeah, there was Alan Berry.
Alan Berry.
I can't remember the others. But anyway, yeah, you were in your pup tent and everything else. That was quite a thing.
How far did you advance?
I made it to life.
Life?
Yeah. I would have probably gone into Eagle, but you get older and just decide you better get a job. So it got me as far as life.
Okay.
But I often think of Freddie Stevens and his brother Don, your father. I can remember all these things. And the other night up at the church, I'm walking around and it brings back memories. Walter Burke was another one.
Berkey, yeah.
A fire chief. That guy forgot more about fire than the professionals will ever know. I had every time you use a water hose out here, garden hose, wrap it up in a circle.
Yeah.
That's a fire lay. And when you're running stuff, and where did I learn that? Walter Burke, years ago.
Yeah.
And he'd taken to Scranton, the fire department down there and everything else. He lived it. I don't know why he was in Germany. He could have been on a big city fire department. The man was brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah. So who were some of your kids you hung around with in high school and some of your teachers in high school?
Well, one of the things about me was, I'm going to tell you, things were not easy. And I used to like to hang around Rossi's restaurant.
Oh, Daddy Rossi.
And you would find a whole bunch there, so there was that crowd. So basically that was it. But I'd be at the counter, I'd be asking them, how do you make this? How do you make that? How do you make the other? Don't ask me any more stupid questions. Go home and ask your mother. If it's okay with her, you got a job. And I worked for Rossi from, I don't know, all through high school and a year after. And a lot of things I learned from him, especially breakfast stuff and how to do things. But one thing I did learn from Rossi was that you got a job, you got to work. And brother, you work in a restaurant, you work.
Yeah.
Because it is not easy. It appears to be easy, but it's not. And then you got to paint a smile on your face with whoever came in there. And a lot of times you'd like to blame them one, but you know, this is how it went. But I worked for Rossi for a long, long time. And sad enough, I didn't even know the man had died. We were on vacation, and it must have been in the papers then. I knew nothing of it until a good year or so after.
Yeah.
But I liked Rossi. He was all right guy. He was good. But again, in a restaurant, it's not a picnic. It's a hard job.
Yeah. Yeah. And then what did you do? Did you go to college after that?
Yes, I did. I was always interested in police. And I have to get this. There was a guy when I was in high school, recently discharged from the Army, and they made him a cop in German. And at that time, I was pivoting. I kind of disgusted with everything and not happy and not exactly making millions of dollars. I was kind of looking, and didn't realize it at the time, I was looking for an older brother. And this guy turned out to be it. And he taught me something about horses, taught me how to drive, taught me a hell of a lot of stuff that I wouldn't say on here. But one thing he did teach me was the Pennsylvania Crimes Code.
Sounds like Dick Mulehead.
That's exactly who it was. And he was, I'll tell you, for the police chief, I don't know of a police chief before him or after him, but ever equal him. Those were the days of Dodge. And every time I watch Gunsmoke, I think of him. Because that's how it was, rough and ready. But Dick Mulehead was and is one hell of a guy. And there were others, I think, in the town that I knew besides him who were of an influence on me. One in particular was Leo Moskowitz.
Oh, yeah.
Leo Moskowitz, quite the guy. There's others who know a lot more about him and who are associated with him more than I was. But I'll tell you what, he floated with the big wigs and even small ones. I was a small one. And he would take you into his office. 18 years old, and just talk to you. And I bought my first car. It was through GMAC. But he found that out, he had heart failure. Come on up here, we'll get you out of that one. And he warned me back then, Tommy, don't even finance an ice cream cone until you see me first. And here it is years later when we bought this house, something else he did. But he taught me something about finance and money and investments. And I thought to myself, every time I work, if I'm going to earn a dollar, part of that dollar is going to work for me. So I turned out to be a bit of an investor. Anyway, when it come time to buy the house we're in now, 1983, the interest rates were sky high, 13%, maybe 14%. And houses just weren't selling. So this one had just been built, brand new. And we were searching around, and Moskowitz again said to me, you talk to these real estate people, you tell them you got a guaranteed loan. If they don't believe you, tell them to call me. That gave me bargaining power, and I used it. And that's how we bought the house, because of Moskowitz. And then, with the high interest rates, he made the remark, he said, look at it. If they start going down, I'll reduce them. You don't need a lawyer, you don't need this, you don't need that, I'll do it. Well, hell, he owned the bank.
Yeah.
So anyway, he was terrific to us, and anybody who wanted to pay attention learn something, and profit by it. That was the man. Oh yeah. I often think of him.
Yeah.
I'll tell you the last thing about him, Christina and I were at Allied Services. This is about a year or so before he died. And he and the wife were walking out, and she was helping him along. And he had, by that time, stone deaf.
Yeah.
And Christina and I are walking right toward them, and they're coming right toward us. And I start smiling, and you got the big smile on him. And he went over to Christina, and he's hugging her. He knew damn right well who she was. But again, it was a story of a lifetime.
Yeah.
And there won't be any more Moskowitz either. And he's a German boy.
Yeah, yeah. What stores do you remember in town as
Oh,
a kid?
well,
Down by you, living by you, I mean, I know Don's Market was down there, but what was there before? Do you remember that?
yes. Bob Horswell had a store there. Horswell.
Horswell?
Yeah. All right, you remember Squire Rippon?
Yep.
Directly across the
Right
street,
on
the
the
big
corner.
white house.
Yep.
That was Bob Horswell's house. And he had the small corner store there then, and then Yogoski took it over. Yeah.
So Horswell's was where Don's Market was.
No, Horswell lived
He lived
across the
where
street.
Squire Rippon lived.
No, across the street from Rippon. On the other side of what, like on Avenue?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
where Ayers lives now.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
And he had that store there, and I don't know whether he owned the building or not. I don't know that too much. But Bob Horswell had the store there, and his son played horn at Lakeland. He played the trumpet, I think. And then if you go up the street, headed up toward Mayfield, you got Matthias's Dairy on one side. Across the street and over on the lane, two businesses over there were Miller Casket and Dearborn. They're not there anymore, I guess. Maybe new places, but they're not there. Go up the street a little bit further, and then you went to Mrs. Miller's 5 and Dime store.
Yeah.
And that was a social center for everybody. My mother used to go there a lot. And
Go to Ellsby's?
Ellsby's was a drugstore, yep. Then went to Ellsby's, Miller's, and on the same side of the street there, Allen's clothing store.
Yeah.
Everybody had a club at Allen's. There were different stores in each town, and they were like upgrade clothing, and that was Allen's. It was excellent things. There was a man who worked there by the name of Ralph Dunn.
Ralph Dunn, yep.
And when I was working in the restaurant, he used to come in, and he always had this same line. And what are you selling today? Well, like, read the menu. Anyway, everybody said, Ralph, are you done yet? And he'd turn around and say, I'm always done, but never finished. But I remember that. And his sister, Florence
Dunn.
was a 4th grade teacher.
Dynamite Dunn.
Dynamite Dunn. She was known to have a temper. Yep.
Yeah.
I'll tell you another one. You'll like this one. Gert McDermott. Again, I loved her. And there was a boy in class. I always sat in the back row. He liked his polkas. He had a pickup truck. He'd come to work. Well, the truck was hooked up to the radio. And you could hear him a block away. Well, anyway, likable boy, all heart. Anyway, he's at the back of the class, and Gert McDermott's up the front of the room. And now she said, John, where did Shakespeare write? And he answered her, he was supposed to say, by the Thames River. And he wrote back, he said back to her, he says, Miss McDermott, he wrote by the river, and I wish the hell he fell in. That was true. That's a true story. Whereupon, she took John Mosley, read.
John Mosley, okay.
And then she took a book, and she wired it down the room at him. And she was something. Years later, we're standing outside the Acme market. I'm talking to Red. Along comes Gert McDermott. And she goes right up to Red Mosley, and she's hugging him and kissing him and everything, But But those were the days. Those were the days.
Yeah, I got sent to the principal by her first time in the 2nd grade because I climbed through the window to come in instead of coming through the front door.
Well, you're still doing windows.
Yeah, yep. So, how about Young's store? Did you shop at Young's store? That was
yeah.
Alvin Young's?
Alvin, he was in the Boy Scouts too at the time.
Well, his father had a store. And then he took the store over
on the corner.
Yeah.
On Lincoln?
On
Jefferson.
Franklin and Jefferson.
Yeah. I forgot about that. Yeah. And he was in the Scouts too. Yeah. Boy, you are bringing back memories.
Yeah.
Then you went up.
Was Tizone's Market around? Tizone's? It was over by Yagurski's there, but that might have been earlier. That was probably before you were there. Probably in the 30s. Okay.
No, not my time. No.
Yeah.
No. Then there's of course Matthias's Dairy.
You remember the gas station across from Matthias's Dairy? Was that there when you were a kid?
I don't remember it.
That was early too. I remember the concrete being there, but I don't remember the gas station. So
I remember Ralph Abbott's gas station at the Triangle as you come into German.
Abbott's, yeah.
And it's vacant now. I remember that. And of course Ayub. In my era, I dealt mostly with Ayub because he's right near my house.
Yeah. They took it over after Abbott's, right? Ayub's?
No. There was Johnny Stipakolsky or something took it over. And it didn't last long. He gave it up. And then I think Ayub took it over.
Okay. Because I remember Ayub being there. Yeah. Do you remember Assembly Hall? Next to the Windsor? The big hall? Great big brick building?
No. All I can remember is right there by the bank, just above the bank. Maybe right across the street. At least the Masonic Order, no.
The Masonic Hall is right next to the bank.
Yes.
The same side as the bank.
Anyway, the only thing I remember is Art Walsley and Gene Brenzel and the insurance office there.
Yeah.
And Gerard Connors, who had been chief of police earlier on, lived in the house right up from there.
Right next to the Masonic Hall. And he had a market in there at one time. It used to be Connors Market. That was before you.
That was before my time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the next building after that, between there and the Windsor, was the great big 3-story brick building that was the Assembly Hall.
I can't.
It was torn down in the 50s. So it was there when you were a kid, a little young kid.
Yeah.
So you probably, I don't remember it, so.
No. If I don't remember it, you sure don't.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking of different people.
Snyder's restaurant?
Oh yeah, Frank Snyder. Yeah, well sure. It was funny because I'd be working for Rossi. Rossi had closed, I'd go up to Snyder and I'd go behind this counter helping people too. Yeah. Frank Snyder was quite a man. They were known for their pies. And then there was Rosie. Rosie always worked there. Oh. Rosie.
Rose Lockney?
Yeah. Rosie. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Boy, you're sparking it now. See, you're getting me thinking. Who else?
That was on the same side of the street as Rossi's, wasn't it?
No, across the street.
So, it was already moved across the street because it was on the same side early on, and then it moved over.
That's right, it was. But when I used to go there, when I'd be working there, I helped them. It was on the other side. I remember that. Yes, it was on the same side.
Yeah, because see, Mike Staples just told me today that his aunt, Hattie Staples, Hattie was his aunt, she lived in that house where Wayne's Diner is now, where Snyder's was. And they sold it to Snyder and then moved into the house next to it with the Stapleses.
I got you.
So I didn't know that. I just found that out today. He was telling me, and then they said there was where the parking lot for Wayne's Diner is now, there was a double house in there, and it had a stone wall in front of it, and you had to step down into the porch 2 or 3 steps to go into the house. He said the Harveys lived there, and Sheridan's lived there when he was a kid in the 60s.
Sheridan.
Sheridans. He said Russell Sheridan was.
Yep, I remember the boy, Russell.
Yeah.
Yep.
So they lived in that building there, right where the parking lot was. And then he said his mother's house, right across from the Masonic Hall, was a movie theater. Before it was Mahalik's gas station, and Herbert Heckman's or something. Herbert's garage is farther up, but there was a Heckman's garage there.
Never heard of that.
And then he said the Cluffers had the lumber yard, and then it was Miller's lumber yard, and it was in where Larry's Market was.
No, that's
but that was he remembers it, but I don't remember.
I don't.
And he's
either.
only 2 years older than me.
I don't remember it.
Yeah.
Of course, again, I may not get up that far. Again, I was hampered a lot.
Yeah. See, I was a little kid. I played in my own area, and I didn't get to Main Street a lot.
Yeah.
Unless I was going there with a parade or something like that. I didn't pay attention to what buildings were there, so I don't remember Assembly Hall.
I don't.
You know, but people tell me, I have pictures of it and I know what it looks like, but I don't remember it. So when did you go to work after, college? You went to work for a government agency, from what I understand.
Oh, yeah. I was hell-bent to get on the police force. And I went to New York City. Everybody goes to New York City and going to conquer New York. Well, it conquered me and a million others. But I wound up there in an apartment in Jackson Heights. These were all brand new apartments. Where they were built had been a landing field during the war. But it was all bought out, and the new homes were up row houses, one after another, apartments.
And now, this is the first time I heard of Jackson Heights since I was a little kid.
Yeah.
And the reason I remember Jackson Heights is because it was in the song for the TV show.
Yeah, Tootie and Muldoon.
Tootie and Muldoon.
Car 54.
Yep. From up in Jackson
Traffic jam in Harlem that's backed up to Jackson Heights.
Backed up to Jackson Heights.
Yeah,
That's the first and last time. That's the next time I heard that since I was a kid.
Well, I graduated high school, no college expectations, no nothing really. And you had Dearborn, and you had Miller Casket, and whatever. And I was damned and determined I was not going to go to work there. I was not going to go to work there.
Mines were already shut down by that time, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Anyway, I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to give it a try. So off I go to New York. I got a job at Western Union. You had to have a legal residency in New York City to take the test for the police. So I get a job, I'm a legal resident, 3046 74th Street, Jackson Heights. So they brought you out there and they let you goof off for a week until they got you set up, and I had time. Very next day, boom, the first precinct I could find, 114th. And I go in and I ask this and that, and I met up with this man, what a guy. He looked meaner, than a judge with a toothache. And tall, and he had a slight limp. Very slight limp. He was a sergeant, Vincent J. Dwyer. And he took an interest in me. And he said, all right, we'll get you going with ARCO, and you study the books and this and that. And I had a heist problem, but at that time they started to reduce the height. Now they take you to that height. If you're alive, they'll take it. Back then they were a little more choosy. Anyway, he got me in what was known as the auxiliary police. They put you in a uniform and everything, and you went out on Friday nights at dances at a place called Dennis Gorman Park, which is under the Triborough Bridge, and that was the precinct area. And you get a taste for it, and I loved it. Well, anyway, I go and I take the test. And you're around the corner and around the corner. It was forever in Linz. And I get these guys are monsters. They wouldn't even see me fingerprint you before you take the test. 3 weeks later, I still have the card. I was in the top 10 percentile. Called for a physical. Boom, 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 boom. Top 10, not top, boy, that's pretty damn good. It was. I show up at the police academy with a gym bag and the stuff you needed, the chunks and this and that, all set to run along. They had a doctor at this room. Wouldn't even let me take the physical, let alone.
Because of the burns? Yeah.
That, again, burns killed it. Well, I was one disappointed bastard. So anyway, packing up and come home. That's when I got a job working for the welfare department. And that's how I got involved with these public meetings and all that, which at the end of it all was a bunch of plain bullshit. Anyhow, this was Johnson's anti-poverty program. Well, I'm anti-poverty, but I'm not Johnson.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was a start. And then I started night school. So I went nights. I don't owe anybody a dime. And this idea of paying off, I'm a conservative, enough said.
Yeah.
But anyway, I went, when I finished the University of Scranton, and I have a Bachelor's of Science, and the area I picked up a course of psychology to criminal justice. And along the way there, I happened to meet up with another cop. And poor fellow is dead now, but he was a state police lieutenant by the name of Francis J. Anzoni. And he took an interest in me because he liked the way I write. And he liked the way I could phrase things. And I could inject a little humor there and it just comes out. I don't dream it up, it just And so he said to me one day, he said, you know, the state police hires from within. And once you're in there, you're in. Unless you get caught robbing a bank or saluting a Russian flag, you're there. And there's a job. He said, you might be interested. I said, I'm interested, but again, check my leg. Because I don't want to go through all this investigation, all this test taking, all of this business, and then get blown out at the end. Nope. He said, you'll be all right there because you'll be on the desk. All right. So I did. And for 20 years, I worked steady midnighter at Troop Dunmore. And you were there in the building by yourself. The place was lit up, you think it was Gestapo headquarters. Me. And I could tell stories galore about that, but again, it gave me a chance to get a real good job. And then with the degree, I wound up teaching school. I taught criminal justice at Lackawanna. I also taught sheriff's training, and I taught what they call Act
23?
No, 235 is private securities, whatever, I forget now, it won't come to me. But if you want to be a cop in Pennsylvania, you have to go through this training. Municipal Police Officers Education and Training Commission. And I got involved with some of the social subjects, this, that, and the other. And so I taught. I remember sitting on the running board of a fire truck down in Laughlin Township and up in the North Country, and somebody sent me all over the place. So actually, while I was working, I had two jobs. I had the midnighter at the barracks, and then 2 nights a week, maybe from 6 to 10 or so, with the law enforcement. So in one way or another, I did get to be with cops and robbers, though not in the way I had originally thought.
Yeah.
But such is life.
Yeah. And what else about German? I mean, you went to church.
Oh yeah, Sacred Heart of Mary.
Sacred Heart of Mary.
Yeah, now it's a different. They added names to it, but the church is on Madison Avenue. Oh yeah. My mother was very staunch Catholic, and I am Catholic. I mean, I'll respect everybody else's, but I follow my own. And there were different priests there. There was Father O'Neill there when I was a kid. And then there were others that came along, but the one I liked was Father Hickey. He was there, I don't know, in the 60s, and I got to like him.
He was
before
O'Neill then, right?
Huh?
He was there just before O'Neill?
After.
After O'Neill? Because I remember O'Neill, I don't remember Hickey.
And then there was, I don't remember him, but my mother sure knew him, Father Saltry. And Saltry had a horse, and Dick Muehlheisen was telling me the other night, the horse's name was General. Father Saltry had come down the house to get me, and he put me on his horse. So I've been around horses all my life. Yeah. In fact, that's Arizona there, and we're going back again in May and ride the horses. That was Mary there.
Yeah.
She got a golf club. But I had an interest in horses, and I always liked them, mainly because it was a sport, and it was something, again, that you could do.
Yeah.
So I was tailored pretty much to what I could do. Another thing I like to do, I'm a pistol shooter. I like to shoot pistols. Oh. Yeah, I go, I have a couple of buddies that are retired troopers, and we go. Never go alone. But you go, and it's not just shooting cans. It's the standard courses that you would take as you go along. I'm okay at it, but at my age now, I'm too slow. And the other day yesterday, they could hear the shooting down here at the Leech Range, and that's the military.
Yeah, yeah.
And
it's right off the Morgan Highway, right?
Yeah, right under the ridge.
Yeah.
But oh yeah. But again, as I said, you know, they say the weather controls you more than your religion, and boy, that's true when you're aching and paining with arthritis and everything else. But then again, when you have a physical, you have to learn to live with it. But again, I did. I was successful there.
Do you remember any of the big floods in Germany? Any of the big floods, or
I remember
any of the big snowstorms? Or
I remember 1955? They had the hurricane.
The flood, yeah.
Oh, it's funny now. See how you spark? Across the street, a lady lived there, and her mother. Mary Kennedy and her mother, and they rented part of the house out to this man. I forget now just how it went, but anyhow, it was just her and her mother was up in years then, and my mother and Mary Kennedy were buddy across the street from one another. And the night of that storm, we were too scared to do anything, and we went next door to Mickey Trintley's house, and we spent the night there with them while it was at its height. And what happened was, that makes me remember it, because anything would fire right away, grabs me, right? A wire came down. It was a live wire. And the man who lived at Kennedy's, where he rented, right? He came out to check on his car, in spite of it. And he risked stepping on that wire to check on his car. And that's how it stuck. That's how I remember it.
Yeah.
And everybody say, what a damn fool he was. Yeah,
Mickey Trentley, he was involved in politics.
Oh!
My father and grandmother used to tell me stories about Mickey Trentley.
Well,
they used to tell me stories about how they handshake and give you $5 to vote for somebody. And
well, there was toward the end of it there was, when I was there was no love between Trentley and Muehlheisen, mainly because Muehlheisen had picked me up at 1 o'clock in the morning at the house, and we built at 4 o'clock in the morning in the police car. And Trentley didn't approve of that. Well, maybe today, if it was my kid, I wouldn't approve of it either. But back then, it was a different life, a different style.
Yeah.
And Trentley and Muehlheisen were always good. So after a while,
you want to get a drink?
No, I get to the point where I wasn't really on the best of terms with Trentley. Then years later, Mickey was getting in bad shape. He had cancer, I think it was.
Yeah.
And I was going around the corner at Hopkins to go down the alley to go home. And he's coming out, and he hollered at me, "Hey, Tommy, your door is open." "Thanks, Mickey." And we're talking for a minute, and that was really it, you know. Politics can be a very nasty thing.
Yeah.
And in German, of course, it was. I remember Catherine Gilhooly. She's dead now.
Yeah.
And I registered 21. I registered to vote. I registered Republican. And she come to me one day and she said, you know, it's bad enough, she said, to be a Republican, but to be a Catholic and a Republican is disgusting. And Catherine, if you're around today, take a look at what's going on.
Yeah.
At the same time, Rippy Callahan, but
yeah.
she was really.
Rippy was my idol. I love that man.
Well, you know, you got the name Rip.
No. No.
Oh, I know that.
No, I didn't know that.
Well,
I played with him as a little kid. I played catch with him. My father was never a great baseball player, but
yeah.
Rippy and I would play catch in the backyard. I was only this tall, and I remember playing catch with Rippy.
Rippy Callahan was a cop in the town. And he got into a real scuffle with somebody. And he had the blackjack, and he let him have it. And he ripped them open. And Doc Roderick coined him Rip Callahan. That's where it came from.
Okay.
Yeah.
Doc Roderick.
Yeah. Oh, Doc, he was a character. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think of others who happen to be involved. I just can't know. You know, tomorrow I'll think of 100 more, but it's funny how you brought some of these things out because...
That's what I try to do, and, you know, try to ask questions and try to get some things out of you that you're not thinking about. And I do that with Dick Muleisen all the time, and then I...
that guy hooked it on history.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to... You know, my thought is this, I'm going to catch up with him one of these days. We're going to go up to church and all this. But I want to take the car and we're going to patrol the town again, just like we used to. And there are places that are there that I never saw before, that are all new. There's new streets, there's new this, there's new that I don't even know. And we're going to patrol the town. We'll take our 6 guns and away we go. We're going to take over. But those days will never be repeated. Never in 1,000 years will they repeat that era.
Yeah.
And then of course there was Larry Lanuti. Larry
was a chief of police too.
Larry got put on there at the time. He was on there shortly before Dick gave it up to go with the liquor board. And Larry took it over, but I remember Larry, and again, I see in the paper where he had died.
Yeah.
His wife Jeannie had died.
Yeah.
Now he has a son or a daughter and son.
And his son, Larry. Yeah. They live in the same house.
In German?
Yeah.
I don't even know the house.
Yeah, it's up on, what's the name of the last street? It's the last street over off of Lincoln. Straight up. The Bumbas live up there, Coons lives up there. If you came in Lincoln off of Rushbrook and made the right-hand turn, the first street, and take it all the way to the dead end, right by Fowler's Field.
I'd have to take a ride and have a look.
Yeah, right,
but Larry's son, he's no kid now.
No, he's in his probably 50. Yeah.
I remember Larry. I remember Jeannie.
Yeah.
I remember them all from the restaurant.
Yeah.
Tom Evans. I have to tell you this one. You'll love this one. Poor fellow's dead and buried. They can't come back now and sue him. But I was working for Rossi 4 afternoons a week, and then on Saturdays. I was pretty busy. In the sophomore year in school, you had to have a herbarium. You had to go in the woods and you had to pick these damn flowers and paste them in a book.
Yeah.
Jesus, Mary and Joseph. Anyway, every time I visited the restaurant, hey, spaghetti bender, he'd yell at me. He came in one day and he had a book under his arm. He pops himself down at the counter. Yeah. Spaghetti bender. This is your herbarium. Keep your mouth shut. I didn't have to go indoors. But I remember him. I think the last time I saw him, Mary and Christine and I were going into Tony Fuga's place there, the fish place.
Fish place down in Archbold, yeah.
Yeah. Because my mother's funeral lunch dinner was from there. But anyway, coming down the steps on the side was Tom Evans. Hiya, Tom. I think that's the last time I saw him too.
Yeah.
And Dan, sad. I happened to be up on Lincoln Avenue one day, and I don't know what I was doing up there. And Marie Evans was out doing flowers, and she was in bad shape. She didn't know me from Adam.
Yeah.
And I just said hello, and you feel bad over that. But about the herbarium, oh, I'm telling you that. Hogarth.
John R.
I was never much for the physical sciences, like zip and none. Social sciences maybe a little different. But Hogarth minced no words. He told you straight out what he thought of you, and that was that.
Yeah.
And of course today in school you'd be sued, but and he went after different ones, and my turn came. Tommy Kenney, you ought to be hit in the head with a baseball bat. I was smart enough. But later on, I got stuck with a physics course of all things. Physics.
Yeah, I took physics.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
Well, believe me, I was up to Hogarth every other night of the week. Bail me out of this. Never mind hit me ahead. Get me out of it.
Yeah.
Anyhow, he did.
Did you go to the basketball games at Lakeland or German high school?
Listen, in there, she was a referee. Coach.
Okay.
And loves it. But anything to do with ball sports, loves it.
Where did you meet her?
Oh, Jesus. You want to know? All right. This takes me a little bit out of German, but
Yeah.
as I said, I worked the midnight shift. And this is a true story. You remember WARM radio?
Yeah.
You know, the walkway across?
Yeah. Across 81.
Yeah. Well, some idiot decided he was going to commit suicide. He's on the northbound bound, and he jumps off. All he does is break a leg. They call for the ambulance. Now the ambulance is coming from Scranton, or southbound.
Yeah.
The attendant in the ambulance is running across to get to him. He got waffled, got killed.
Wow.
So in this instance, the ambulance attendant is the guy who gets killed. Well, those were the days of the interstate, the semi troop, they call them. They had special troopers for the interstate. They don't have that anymore. But they did then. So there was 2 troopers in the car. And the rule was, like, if I'm driving the car, you get the incident. Vice versa.
Yeah.
One guy, he gets the incident. And when you have a fatal, everything stops. You go back to the barracks, you forget about your patrols, you get somebody else to cover you. You got to do your reports, the I's, the T's, the this, the that. It's fatal. Anyway, this guy couldn't spell worth the damn. Now, he's about 6'6", Big John Poinkowski. He was the size of, like, if he ever hit me, I'd still be in orbit, right? So anyway, he's there doing this, and I'm sitting where you are, and he's sitting here, and he's doing his drawings, and he had to start writing stuff. How do you spell this? You know? How do you spell that? How do you spell? How do you spell? I picked up a dictionary and I threw it at him. Here, meet Mr. Webster. You married? No. You got a girlfriend? Yeah. I know this broad, you ought to meet her. She teaches my kid. His kid died. His kid was a lawyer. Died not long ago. It was a real heartbreak. But that's how I met Mary, because she knew them all from their kids at school.
Okay.
See? And that's how that came about.
Did you know a lot of the people in the fire company in German, or either one of them, Crystals or Artesians, or no?
No. In the Artesians, there was Jerry Gahuli.
Yeah.
Gooley died, you know,
Yeah.
not
Used to call
long
him
ago,
Abdul.
yeah. and he was a piece of work too.
Yeah.
In the Crystals, there was Walter Burke, Edwards, Ronnie Edwards,
Teddy Edwards, yeah.
Frick,
Gene Frick, yeah.
Of course, Berkey. Oh, Ushers, Tommy Usher.
Tommy Usher, yeah.
Yeah, I
You
remember Tommy.
Betty Tucker when she was a cop?
Yeah. She's still around?
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
still
Yeah.
it's down in Archibald.
Archibald, yeah.
Yeah.
She
But
was-
nobody can touch Neil Heisen. Nobody. And they couldn't touch him with a yardstick. He's just he'd be laughing. But
yeah, he was a tough guy. Yeah.
I remember a story. The cops had always parked at the gas station there, right at the end of Northwood Street.
Yeah, by the Windsor.
Yeah. The guy,
Sunoco station it was when I was a kid.
I don't know, I forget there was, but there was Leroy Cole.
Cole, yeah.
Yeah, Leroy. I remember Leroy. But anyhow, the guy come through that stop sign. Well, the cop stopped him, and he picked a fight. And the guy that stopped him was Larry Lundy. And so the story goes, Lanuti didn't want to hit the guy, and yet the guy is pounding the hell out of Larry. But Larry was afraid more so because he gets sued.
Yeah.
Well, Rabbi Westington, remember Rabbi?
Bobby Westington.
Yeah, Rabbi, they called him.
Yeah.
And he went running down to Eddie Mullins where Dick lived at the time. And Dick goes up in his pajamas. And he flattened the guy.
Wow.
I was maybe 15 years old. And I was with Dick. He had a warrant to serve. Now, hey, I'm 15 years old, right? I'm ready for beer. Down we go. Some guy in Dixon City. He's up on like a second story, like something like this. And he starts to attempt to serve the papers, and the wife comes beating him with the broom. In the meantime, the guy hits him. Neil Heisen gives the guy a punch, send him over the tail, down on his ass, down, up, story down. Oh, you broke my back, you broke my back. Well, Neil Heisen goes down to the police station. He finds the police chief. He says, don't believe him. That guy's the biggest bullshitter in town. You know? Anyway, the guy wound up going to jail or whatever the hell happened. But,
Yeah.
oh, I've been with Dick on some dandies. I've been with him on some chases that you wouldn't believe.
Yeah.
No wonder Trinity had heart failure, huh? But
Yeah.
he chased. I was with him one night. The car's going like hell. He wouldn't stop. He chased him all the way to Cardinal. Hauled his tail back, him and his buddy, down to Ripon. That's at the time the Justice of the Peace, you know.
Yeah.
Well, whatever. And the other guy, the one buck, I think, I forget now whether they wound up in jail or what. But the guy that was learning how to walk home. You're not getting the ride home, you'll walk home. But again, today, I mean,
Yeah.
the mollycoddle these people.
Got
You know?
any stories about Squire Rippon?
Oh, yeah.
Did you understand how he talked? I mean, he had that Welsh, was it Welsh?
That was Jack Hudson.
Well, didn't Squire Rippon have an accent too?
No. Jack Hudson,
Well, he was-
Englishman.
He was a magistrate too, wasn't he?
Well, he...
Because I remember going to him to get my papers for my car or something when I was a kid.
Well, Ripon was always the Justice of the Peace. The son-in-law was Jack Hudson,
Okay.
married to Ripon's daughter, Margaret.
Okay.
Anyway, I used to be up there all the time, on the corner,
Yeah.
as a kid.
Yeah.
And Jack Hudson had a big job at the mines in Oliphants. Okay? He was a big administrator or something. He had a damn good job there. Well, on Sundays, he used to have to get out of the office to check things out. Well, that was bullshit. But anyhow, he'd take me with him. Now, I might be 6, 7 years old, if that. He'd be going to the bar. Jack would come on with half a scatter on. Well, Margaret Rippon was ready to beat him over the head with a hammer. But I remember, oh yeah. Well, then they had the Senior Citizens Group in German, and Jack Hodgson was president of it. And I'll tell you, he kept it together. He had the humor. He had all of these things, and they ran a pretty good show.
Yeah, they met in the basement of the Catholic Church, I think. I think that's where they met.
I don't know.
Yeah. I think my, I don't know, my grandmother went there.
Oh, everybody went there.
Yeah.
Now, your grandmother and my mother were good friends, Lena. They'd be on the phone, yak. Another one was Alice Thomas, the school teacher.
Okay.
Alice Four.
Alice Few, yeah.
Well, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, I had her in school too, and she was nice.
Did you have Eleanor Colley?
Don't even talk about her. Burp Colley. She'd come in the morning with a hangover, and they called her Burp from the beer. And every time I see Miller High Life, I think of her. Because we used to go by her house over to the field. The case would be on it. I couldn't stand that.
Wow.
And you know what's the funny thing? Oh, I didn't like her one bit, and she didn't like me. And then I got elected class president one year. Oh, that didn't go over. I was not the favorite. Well, she was an absolute, as far as I'm concerned, an absolute bitch. And years later, I'm coming through town. Who's standing on the corner waiting for the bus? But Gert McDermott. And I stopped. Where are you going? I have to go to the Social Security office in Scranton. Come on. I took her to Scranton. And we got talking, so. And I told her, I said, you were an angel to me. You don't realize all the good you did for me. But I said, your buddy there, Colley.
Yeah, they were always together too.
Oh,
Yeah.
I know. I saw them coming home at 4 o'clock in the morning.
We have a picture in one of our books of Eleanor and her sitting in a bar someplace.
Oh,
Yeah.
but I could not get along with Colley at all. And I would, didn't like her one bit. She's about the only school teacher I didn't like.
Yeah.
But I just couldn't stand her, except the nuns. Oh.
Who owned the Windsor when you were a kid? Do you remember? I know Joe Maratska owned it in the 60s. Did you ever go in there, like, you know, as you got older? No?
I think I was in there maybe once in my life, and that's later on. I had a trooper friend of mine, A.J. Fazio, poor fellow's dead now. He wanted to go there for wings, and we had been out shooting, and we went there, and it was closed.
Huh.
And I don't think, if I was in it once in my life, that's all.
Okay.
I never, no. I tell you what, in my entire life, I never stopped in a bar for a beer. Unless I was with somebody or something.
Yeah.
But that thought would never occur to me. I just didn't do it.
Yeah.
I'm not, now there's wine there for supper. I'd rather go get a big shot.
Yeah.
Because I make no secret of it. My father was a complete alcoholic. Died an alcoholic. My brother was 9 years my senior. He died of alcohol, and he died of throat cancer at the age of 47.
What's his name?
John.
John?
And I just, you know, it goes this way. And I just don't have a thing for the for the booze.
Do you have any other brothers or sisters, or just one? That's it.
Yeah.
What other you have any other relatives in town?
In German?
In German?
No.
No?
No, I would have had a first cousin be my father's brother's son. His name was Hubert Kinney, more commonly known as Hugh.
Hugh Kenney. We have a book written by him about the history of Germany. It's a little paper like this.
Yeah. But he was, he joined the Air Force in around 1954, about the time they graduated. He didn't have anything either. did his 4 years in the Air Force. Then I think he went to Stroudsburg, East Stroudsburg, somewhere, and he got his degree. Goes back in the Air Force again. And he had more flying time over Vietnam as a bomber pilot until he took a heart attack.
Huh.
When he took the heart bump, and they made him base commander at a big Air Force base up in New Hampshire. And he's got a sister, Davy, Kathy Kenney, that married a Davy, did the awning business, but I guess they're retired now. And they live in Dunmore. But yeah, Hubert Kennedy did quite well for himself in the Air Force.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Any other funny stories? Anything else that you can think of? We're going to wind it down now.
You better. Geez, I'm going how long now? I was worried. I was nervous. Like I'm nervous, you can see. Oh, I imagine there's a lot of them. But at the moment... Oh, I'll tell you one more about Milheiser and we'll let it go. Because he deserves a good hit in the head, right? Now, Eddie Rossi in the restaurant is very temperamental. Get excited very easily.
Yeah.
It's the truth. I can't dream it up. Well, anyway, it's summertime. Milheiser gets a call from a lady in town. I forget what her name is, on Main Street. Oh, come down quick, there's a snake in my yard. And she's scared to death, right? This is true. Well, Milheiser, he takes a shotgun with him, figuring, you know, what am I going to come up against? A little garden snake. Ah. That's around his arm. Puts his uniform coat over. Goes in the back door to Rossi's restaurant. Rossi's there chopping. Hey, chop this! And he threw it on the thing. Rossi's deathly afraid of a steak, any size. Well, he picked up that meat cleaver.
Wow.
Now there is the chef in his white outfit chasing the chief of police down the street with a meat cleaver. There you go. Now where else but Germany?
That's a good way to end this.
That was true. That is true.
Eddie was a good friend of my father's. They were always together. My father used to play the punch boards down there all the time.
Oh, I remember waiting on him too. Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, my father would always bring home cheeseburgers with everything on them from Rossi's and bring me home something he won on the punch board. And yeah, I can still remember them. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We have one of the stools from his restaurant in our museum. When we get it done, we'll have it. That's the only thing I could save out of there when they were tearing the building down.
Yeah, that building was let go. Well, they sold it. Are you shut off now?
No.
Oh,
It's still on.
yeah, well, they sold it. Howard Young.
Howard Young took it, and then somebody else took it after that. Butchie's Roundup it was. And then the Longworths that have the restaurant there now in Pelak's Bar.
Yeah.
Well, that's Joni Longworth took it, and then her and her husband had it. And then they bought Pelak's Bar next door, and they moved the restaurant in there. So that's a restaurant now.
Ah. Oh, I remember Steve Felak.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Harold Coons told me a story about Pelak's had a still in the basement of the floor in the kitchen.
May well have.
Yeah.
May well have. But oh yeah.
You remember any stories about Willie Dorr or Iggy Lindsay or any of them? Do you remember any of those guys?
Well, I remember when Iggy Lindsay. They were
Here's the
in the
postman.
snow. You know what I'm talking about? You're driving in the snow. What are they?
Snowplow?
No.
Oh,
no.
the quads like the do.
Yeah, no. They go like hell.
Snowmobile.
Snowmobile.
Okay.
Eddie Rossi went one time. Hezzy got banged up, landed in the hospital. And I remember going down to the hospital. He was down at the Mid-Valley. He did something to his leg, but anyway, that was the end of Rossi's days on the ski mobile. Iggy Lindsay. Willie Duber. That name rings a bell.
He married my Aunt Margaret.
What did he do?
He didn't do much of anything as far as I knew.
Oh, well, I don't know. I mean,
he worked over at Dearborn, I think. He worked in the mines a little bit when he was younger. He was in the Navy. And then he married my Aunt Margaret, and he drove Oldsmobiles all the time. Always had an Oldsmobile, Olds 98. Always had a convertible.
The name rings a bell, but
He was from Archibald originally, and then he married he was dating my Aunt Margaret, my father's sister. Margaret, she was only about this tall.
I don't.
No, I just thought maybe you'd know them because they were always together, Iggy, Lindsay, and...
Well, Iggy Lindsay I remember from the post office.
Yeah.
Then he retired there, and he became something to do with a trucking company.
That I don't know, but I remember him being at the post office, yeah.
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 And of course Mullally, and then Rosie Bruce.
Mullally and Rosie. And
Now is John Mullally's
Gilman.
daughter still the postmaster, John?
No, she was there, but she's not there anymore. I don't know if she still works there or not.
Maybe she retired.
I think she might have retired. She lives in a house just up from where John lived.
Yeah.
The Mullally's still own that same house. That's been in the family. That's the oldest family, single family livings in the same house in German in the history of the town.
Wow.
Yeah.
I know the house, so sure.
Yeah.
Michael Roshak, does that ring a bell?
I remember the name, yeah.
I graduated with him, and he was a cantor in the Russian Orthodox Church.
Okay.
But the last I knew, he was in New York City, and I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's where I remember him singing in the church. In the Russian church, because my wife was Russian.
Well, he was quite a singer.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember going to the Yucatan. I got to say something in it or what?
No, we can end it whenever you want.
No.
You still have more to say?
No. But I remember going to the Russian Orthodox Church, and you ordered your pierogies, and if you asked for one extra one, they hit you on the head. that pierogi sales put that church together and built it.
Oh yeah.
But I don't think they do that anymore. I don't know.
No, they have the hall now. They built the hall over there, and I played basketball in the hall. Now they have that. And they have dinners on and rent it out. And they make some money that way.
When I go patrolling the streets with Dick, we're going to check all these places out.
Okay.
I'll probably get thrown out of most of them, but
well,
gentlemen, thank you. I enjoyed it.
I appreciate it.